Begley.
Here.
John F. Flores. Here. Catherine E. Leonard.
Here.
Justin S. McLaughlin.
Here.
Jean Marie Napolitano.
Here.
Naomi Neville.
Here.
There's a quorum present, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Has anyone signed up for the Citizens Forum?
No, they have not.
Okay. First order of business?
The consent calendar.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent calendar in its entirety with the exceptions of items 5 and H.
Second.
There's a motion second to approve the consent calendar with the exception of 5 and H. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Application for a special event license, Bike to the Beach Incorporated, DBA Bike to the Beach, New England.
Councilor Leonard.
I see that this application is for Labor Day weekend from 1 to 4 p.m. and it appears to be for 100 cyclists. And it's very busy time in Newport and very busy time of the day in Newport. And I would like to know if this was approved by the city department.
Oh, the answer is yes. I mean, we've vet, the police department vets all of this.
Okay, now my next question will be then, do we anticipate, how are we going to deal with the traffic for the bicyclists going by?
Well, I'm going to invite the police chief up to the microphone and just discuss that with you if he has any of the details.
Okay, thank you.
The only thing I'm going to note is I think we went through this, I thought we went through this last year. I'm not sure it was the same dates, but in terms of this particular event. So, Gary, if you're around somewhere. Thanks for coming.
Chief, can you identify yourself for the public, please?
Gary Silva, Chief of Police.
Can I, is this where bicyclists would come in sporadically, or would
Yes.
they be going all at once?
It's a sporadic spread. It's not a very large group, we're told. You just kind of trail in and then trail out.
Okay. One of the things that I've been witnessing myself, and I get calls about, are bicyclists that are 5 deep on the roadway or 4 deep on the roadway, and then people can't pass them, and it causes, I think, we all talk about how do we improve it, the biking, how do we make sure that, it doesn't, there's safety issues. I will ask that we approve this, but I think we need a policy and a plan for the future, because this summer, I think, has been proven to be pretty much of a nightmare for a lot of people. We have too many things on the road. Scooters, bicycles, the new cars that look like Batman rentals, and the list goes on and on.
Okay, is
So
that
I
a
make a
motion?
motion to approve. Second.
There's a motion second to approve. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Communication from Bike Newport requesting the city manager to submit a letter of interest and subsequent application for the Big Jump grant.
Councilor McLaughlin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I'd like to give Ms. Freeman an opportunity to speak to the council.
Oh, I can't hear you, sorry.
I can hear myself. I'd like to give Barry an opportunity to speak to the council.
Hello.
3 minutes,
Freeman.
Barry.
Oh, I'll take 30 seconds, hopefully. Barry Freeman, Friendship Street, Bike Newport. This is an opportunity that's come up to the city by invitation from the national organizations that is sponsoring the grant. They're looking for 10 cities across the country to be pilot cities for what they're calling the Big Jump, which is an effort to increase the number of people who can choose bicycling for transportation and recreation. The reason why Newport as a city is on their radar screen is because we're a very special city. And we represent a different construct of being a historic city with a seasonal surge in activity, and the potential to reduce traffic congestion and improve the visitor experience by shifting people to bicycles is something that they're very aware of. There's a preservation component to this as well. So the invitation is to submit an application. Our request to the City Council is not to submit the application, but to submit the letter of interest, and then allow those of us who can support the city in exploring what an application would look like to work with the city to do that. In the process, the opportunity would reveal itself whether it's a good fit for the city or not. The grant would be a value of $250,000. Some of it is grant, some of it is support in other ways. Again, it's a national organization called People for Bikes, a very well-respected, perhaps the most well-respected bicycle advocacy organization in the country. So we've done a lot together, and we're grateful to the city for the steps that have been taken. We have a fabulous roadmap from our bicycle-friendly community application and the feedback that we got from the National Bike League. From that, we have the open space partnership working. We have, a lot of different activities going around the city related to planning and transportation planning. So we're kind of on the road to figuring out if this is a good thing, and that's why we're making the suggestion.
Madam
Okay,
Chair.
questions? Yes.
I have.
Now, Councilor Neville.
One thing I would like to request is I'm going to support to have the city write a letter, but I am going to ask that the letter and perhaps the organization address the fact that I think bicyclists as transportation is good, but we're at the tip of an island, and really it's the three towns that really need the improvement, not just Newport. Mm-hmm. If bicycling is for transportation to get to and from work, you have to be able to live in Portsmouth and bike to Newport. So in my mind, the grant would be used island-wide, not just a Newport effort, and that it would be more successful that way.
The grant actually addresses that, and they ask for a very specific geography. They're looking to look at either a particular effort or a particular geography. So that could come up again in the exploration of what our application would look like. It may be limited to a particular geography or population.
Well, if it's a geography or, as you said, a project, perhaps,
right.
I think, that type of money, if it would be used on a large-scale project that could actually improve island-wide bike transportation, I think that could be useful.
I think that's a very good point. I could talk more about it, but I don't want to take more than the time for this. And
I just would say that I would make that request, that the letter that comes from the staff address that really it's an issue that's beyond just the city of Newport's borders.
Yeah, again, I think the requirements of the grant may or may not support that. So if it does, then we could do that, if that makes sense. Again, not going into too much specificity here, but looking into the grant together is going to reveal what the best application is going to look like, and I fully agree with what you're saying.
Okay. Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilor Leonard.
Part of this that I looked at says, and it lists programs, it says each of these projects plans includes and highlights bicycling as a primary transportation choice and promotes the allure and advantages of encourage active transportation, biking and walking. And I see that, but I have to tell you that we're not Copenhagen, and we're not Copenhagen, and we're not places that, I don't see that personally bicycling will be a primary choice for people my age and even people younger, and certainly not older. I see it, but I think it's rare. And I wasn't really sure. It seems to me that the application, the result of the application, if it's granted, seems like a study type. Is this really like a major study? What's the application? What's the end goal if we receive the application? That's the
end goal if we submit an application and we are selected to be one of the 10 cities. The end goal that they're looking for is to increase the number of people biking, to double or triple the number of people biking over a 3-year period. The number of people biking in this city is rather low, so it's not it's not that significant in Newport. But they are looking to accomplish that through the combination of infrastructure and education and otherwise. When we talk about the condition of our roads and the traffic on our roads, what we're looking at is a lot of cars. And as we move people into different transportation options, and we like to call it transportation options as opposed to transportation alternatives, because biking, walking, motor are all the options that we have. They're all options. One isn't an alternative to cars unless we're car-centric.
Now, I'm sorry, would engineers be part of these studies? Because I can tell you that the Thames streetscape plan that we've had presented, we're narrowing of Thames Street and so forth, and there was wide conversations regarding that at the King Senior Center, and how our infrastructure probably doesn't encourage that sort of thing. And so my question about, are there engineers that would be part of these studies? Because I personally, and I use the city manager's quote a lot because I think it was so appropriate, how do you put a size 10 foot and a size 3 shoe?
They said that.
I love that quote because it's real.
Yeah, we know that you like
But
that
I
quote.
mean-
What we like to say is that we're not looking to put a size 10. We're not looking to change the size of the shoe. We're looking to change the size of the foot. We're not going to change the size of our streets. What we need to do is figure out a better way to distribute and make use of the streets in a way that serves everyone. But to answer Councillor Leonard's first issue, which now is
Traffic engineers.
The traffic engineers, yes, of course, the traffic engineers are involved, and our engineers in the city, are really well trained. They're going to conferences all over the country, thinking about complete streets, thinking about bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. Bill Riccio, Frank Marinaccio, and the entire team are knowledgeable. We're really fortunate. We have a lot of expertise in this town, and all of the planning going on, the comprehensive land use and the open space and the innovation hub and catalyzing Newport are all addressing all of this from the perspective of engineering as well as sustainability and resilience. So it's all fitting together for where we're looking as a city.
Here it says a staff commitment, and what are we talking about for staff commitment? Because the staff really works hard, and
I think it's going to reveal itself. I think it's going to reveal itself. We don't know yet whether it's a good fit. I think that was what we were communicating is let's look at this, not miss the opportunity to look at it and figure out if it is a good fit. We don't know that, and we're not committed. We as a city are not committed to submitting an application unless we find out that it is a good fit.
Yeah, I personally would like more information to be able to do it. I would like to see what letter would be sent.
Again, I think it's just simply a letter of interest to get on on their list, and the rest will reveal as we go through the process.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Councillor.
as the letter from Ms. Freeman points out, the letter of intent would need to be filed by the 18th of August, but it in no way commits the city to doing anything. We don't even have to file an application after that, but it does sort of give us a leg up on anybody else that might be doing it. And so for the price of a piece of paper and the city manager's signature, I think it would be a good first step. But to address what Councillor Leonard may be referring to, so we have challenges with bicycles. This is an opportunity to get some money to help us deal with those challenges. Heaven knows, you mentioned Thames. If we'd listened to the people who were our critics, we wouldn't be doing anything on Broadway today. We would have knocked it off 6 years ago. Sometimes you can't listen to the critics. You've got to listen to the people who have a little vision and see what can be done for the city. And this is an opportunity to perhaps develop more vision with respect to what we can do with bicycling. No, we will never become Amsterdam or Copenhagen, but maybe we can be a little bit better. And I'm not going to ask for numbers, but I think more than 20 people rode their bicycles to the Jazz and the Folk Festival. And that's a real significant indication of how biking can make a contribution to getting some cars off the road. I think Councillor Neville may have made a motion.
I just wanted to have language added about island-wide.
So I would make a motion to have the city manager prepare this letter of interest and submit it, and including Councillor Neville's idea about island-wide, and I would just ask that it be brought back to the council at our October 26th meeting, and at that time the council can vote to either go forward with it or not to go forward. And if at any time before that, the manager can just say, this isn't a fit, thank you very much, and he should just let us know. So
I'd second the motion.
What date did you say?
October 26th.
Oh, okay.
That's our second meeting in October, which would be just a few days before the date that it needs to be filed, October 28th.
All right, there's a motion and second. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Application for an entertainment license renewal, LaForge Casino Incorporated, DBA LaForge Casino Restaurant.
Yes, this is the LaForge Casino for the indoor Class A license at 186, 188 Bellevue. I move passage.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Application for an entertainment license renewal, Thames Street International Yacht and Athletic Club, DBA Thames Street International Yacht and Athletic Club.
Again, this is a renewal of a Class A indoor entertainment license for Thames Street Yacht and Athletic Club at 536 Thames Street. I move passage.
Second.
There's a motion, second. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
First reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 10.24 entitled Parking Restrictions on Specific Streets.
Councilor Segley?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to continue this. There has been more information coming to light. So.
There's a motion and second to continue. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Action number 5563.
Madam Chair, Department of Public Services recommends awarding the contract associated with the Sidewalk Improvement Program for 2016 to the lowest, most responsive bidder, which is LAL Construction Company, Incorporated of Fall River, Massachusetts. The cost of this work will not exceed the total amount of $533,493.18. It is currently budgeted, Madam Chair. I move approval of accompanying resolution.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Action number 5564.
Madam Chair, Department of Utilities, Water Division recommends award of the Lawton Valley Lead Remediation Project to the low bidder Enpro Services Incorporated of Franklin, Massachusetts for the not-to-exceed bid price of $86,623.50. It is currently budgeted. I move approval of accompanying resolution.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Action number 5565.
Madam Chair, Department of Utilities recommends the design, build, operate service contract for the water pollution control system, number 15-023 with Newport Water Services, LLC, to be amended in accordance with change order number 1 for the amount of $1,861,962. Change order number 1 is associated with the design, installation, and startup of a solar system at the wastewater treatment facility that will offset a portion of the facility's power usage. Also, the funding for change order number 1 will be provided by a $1.2 million loan from the Efficient Buildings Fund, administered by the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank and the Rhode Island Department of Energy Resources, and the $896,200 grant available from the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. It is currently budgeted, Madam Chair. I move approval of accompanying resolution.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councilor
I
Leonard.
have a question. I noticed that with these solar applications that there are ground mounts and there are roof mounts. And in relation to the roof mounts, I just want to make sure that the roofs that we are putting these solar panels on are in really good condition before we do it, so we don't end up with major problems.
Madam Chair? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Julia Forge, Director of Utilities. Yes, there are improvements on the roofs anyways for some of the new infrastructure going in, the HVAC systems and that for the facility.
Is the roof area that these are going on fairly new roof areas?
No, but there's improvements being made as part of the project to the roofs.
Instead of replacing the roofs?
We have an overall
Yes.
project going on out there for
Yeah, I know.
$40-some-odd million, and part of it is improvements to the structure, regardless.
I mean, I just personally don't want to see roofs patched and then we put solar panels. So I'm hoping that that's what happens.
Just a moment, please. Councilor McLaughlin, did you have a question?
I did. What's the approximate value of the 328,000 kilowatt hours that this will generate?
I don't have a dollar figure. I do know we use approximately 2.5 million kilowatt hours on
Maybe
average
we can
per
back
year.
into it. How much do we pay for electricity today?
Yeah, I don't have that figure.
'Cause, I mean, that would be, could it be influential as to whether we should spend money to generate electricity, if we should know how much we're going to be saving by doing it. And the other question I had was, the sun only shines during the daytime, so are we just going to be using the electricity that we generate during the daytime, or is there going to be any storage capacity with this setup?
I don't have those details.
I think there is, I mean, as I understand it, because I've got, there's a generator that it's going to, electricity gets stored in as a result of the solar aspect of it. It's not just working during the daylight hours and generating electricity. That's why they use the phrase cogeneration.
It might well be that all of the electricity generated during the hours of sunlight is used during the hours of sunlight.
Right.
But, you know, and
The storage.
what I really was thinking about is, does this provide us the opportunity to make electricity and to store it during times when we don't have electricity available to us, which would give us some, backup capacity during those time periods, some limited ability to continue to operate our system. But we already have generators.
Yeah, we're
don't we?
required to have everything on the
Okay.
generator.
I mean, plus, I mean, your point is well taken because it also gets into discussions we've had about microgrids, just for example.
Yeah,
Madam Chair?
thank you.
I think that's
Wait a minute. Do you have any other
point.
questions? Okay.
I'm fine, thank
Councilor Leonard.
I
Yes.
think that's a really good point to know ahead of time if that power and energy could be stored. I think that's important to know.
Okay, how do you want to proceed? I think storage of energy, it's a whole separate subject.
I will vote for it. I would just like to get some additional information.
We'll get that, we'll get that for you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I just, looking through it earlier, I didn't see anything as far as like lithium battery storage, for night use, but at the same time, it produces so much, we use so much electricity there 24/7 that whatever is fed into the system, if we are producing excess power, we get a credit from.
Yeah, we
From-
are still
from
going to
National
need
Grid.
to, right, we're still going to
Right.
need to purchase power from National Grid.
The
This
batteries
will
will
not-
carry an additional cost.
This is on site.
Yeah,
This is separate from the grid.
Right.
We're not selling back to the grid as a result of this. We're reducing our consumption. It's not the net metering selling back to the grid. It's a self-contained generation, as if you didn't have the grid.
But, so we don't anticipate a net surplus during a 24-hour period at all anyway? Okay. All right.
But we'll get the information about the storage issue. It's a good issue that we'll thresh out for you.
Okay.
Thank you. Are we ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Action number 5566.
Madam Chair, Newport Fire Department recommends the acceptance of the 2016 Port Security Grant Program Award for the procurement of a new fire and rescue boat. Total budget for said project, as awarded by FEMA, is $964,500, with FEMA providing 75%, and the city's match of 25%, or $241,125. It is currently budgeted. Madam Chair, I move approval of accompanying resolution.
Second.
There's a motion and second. Discussion. I'd first like to acknowledge that we received a lengthy memo today, and my own feelings on it is that it was a lot to digest. I have asked the manager to share that with the media, all forms of media. Obviously, it's been a hot topic over the last 2 weeks, and I think it's important that the public understand what exactly the benefits would be, and we do have people here to talk, to speak on the issue, and if there's anybody in the public that would like to speak on the issue, you certainly can do so. If anyone on the council initially would like to make a comment, I'd ask that it be short so that there's a lot of people in the room and we can get the information out there. But I will be recommending that we continue this till the next meeting for a vote.
Okay, I have some questions regarding the memo we received. And my first question is,
Chief, could you come up, please?
Thanks. Okay. Motion to receive the memorandum?
Second.
Is the motion second to receive the memorandum? All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Thanks.
opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, first question I had looking at this, and I'm a boat owner. For the labor costs, it says none, donated, or city firemen would do the work.
Correct.
And I personally don't know anywhere where you buy something like this and the warranty holds true if you do your own work. And so with the warranty, I mean, do we have in writing that the warranty would not be void if our guys did the work?
I do not, but I can reach out to Moose Boat on that.
I think that's really, really
Sure.
important because I know from what I've seen, if you touch it,
Yep.
you own it. In terms of donated maintenance, it says that we can apply to PSGP annually for funding for training and maintenance, but it's no guarantee that we would get it, is it?
Correct.
Okay, so we may get it. Then, in terms of extended warranties, it says it was not considered worth the cost. So do we know the
In
cost?
discussion with the Moose Boat manufacturer, that
I'm
was...
sorry, what?
In discussion with the Moose Boat manufacturer, that was their statement, yes.
Wait, I didn't hear that.
In discussion with the Moose Boat manufacturer, his statement was that it's not normally worth the cost.
Oh, I'm sure they would say that. I can tell you that one manifold on my boat, and when it blew, each one was $1,400 like this. And so when my vet tells me or other people tell me, don't really look at a warranty, I kind of sometimes cringe, not for an appliance that has a 7-year lifespan, but you always have to say how come. All right, let's see. The jet drive has a 2-year component warranty, but no more, according to this?
Correct.
Okay. And in the breakdown of water vehicle fires that we had, it says not necessarily including docks or marinas. It's 2010 we had 3, 2012 1, 2013 2. How many, do we know actually how many boat fires there were that were not on docks?
What I have there is boat fires we responded to.
Because if the boat fire is usually at a dock, then the fire trucks would go out, correct?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
If there's a fire on a boat on the land, isn't it the fire truck that goes out?
Well, yes, currently that's all we can do. But absolutely, having a firefighting asset on the water could be quicker, much quicker than fire apparatus.
And that's assuming it's close to Parati Park, right?
No, I mean, most of our marinas are in the harborfront area. They all have finger piers and docks that come out, with the exception of Goat Island, which has a pre-set up for us to draft out of the water. None of the other docks do.
Okay, and then another one I have, we're talking about the process for responding to boat fires, and we say here that the PPMST team includes Narragansett Bay. The members are Providence, Cranston, Warwick, East Providence Fire Departments, and we would be part of this team. Is that correct?
Correct.
So would that mean that if there are calls to go, that this is the distance of our territory that we may be responsible for?
It's possible.
Okay. So it's possible that our team could actually go to Providence, Cranston, Warwick, East Providence. Jamestown was part of that too, wasn't it? And Middletown?
Like I said, there's multiple communities. I think it's 10 or more that are part of that. That is part of the Southern New England Mutual Aid Assistance Plan.
And for this kind of protection, I'll say, these other communities that we would team with that don't have boats, would they contribute to the boat, or would they pay a share for calls for service?
No,
or
they
is
wouldn't.
it Newport paying and others sharing the benefits?
One of the things is, like I said, when we respond to these, depending upon the situation, location, duration of the event, we don't backfill. There's not going to be additional staffing for the boat on a regular basis. Right now, North Kingstown, for instance, in the Hog Island incident, just like if it was Newport Harbor, they came over to us. It's part of the mutual aid plan.
Madam Chair,
Can I
just ask mutual aid? We've had the mutual aid agreement in place for quite some time, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And part of that, and I'll bring it up here too, as part of mutual aid, we have the fire trucks and so forth to help communities. How does it work? Because it seems, I don't know how many ladder trucks, for example, Newport has versus where we have mutual aid. Yeah. But my question is Newport paying a higher share for equipment than other communities that are part of the mutual aid agreement?
Could you better define that for me? I'm not sure I understand the question.
Like, I don't know, how many, let's just use a ladder truck.
Yep.
All right, how many ladder trucks does Newport have or
2.
hope to have? How many does Middletown have?
1.
Okay. What about, we do Portsmouth too, correct?
Portsmouth has 1.
And how many, they have 1?
Correct.
Okay. And let me see what else. Okay, here's another question. For training and certification, if this boat is purchased, would the people who are operating the boat, because other firemen are on there or other personnel, have to have captain's licenses?
No. We can train to the standard. We don't have to have the licenses.
All right,
although we could work toward that with the Coast Guard.
Okay, because to get a captain's license is time-consuming and expensive.
Absolutely.
But it wouldn't be required?
No.
But would we offer it?
We could work to that in the future.
I have mine.
There you go.
Well, then you can drive the boat.
I can drive the boat.
Come on board.
I have some others, but I'll wait till the next meeting.
Madam Chairman.
Those were straight off
You know
the
what?
memo.
I think the easiest way to do this, I'm going to go right down, with the exception of me.
Sure.
Okay? Councilor Segley?
Yes. I have a question about the Coast Guard's role in these fighting fires. Could you describe, I know we did get a memo today, but could you just describe what it is that the Coast Guard does during a boat fire?
Their primary mission is life safety, environmental, and enforcement. In the memo, which I was aware of, he sent it to me, they will interdict and try to do immediate firefighting capabilities to save a life, if they can. But that's not their primary role. And outside of that life factor, they're going to stand back, they assist, they set up a perimeter for us.
So the Hog Island fire that occurred when North Kingstown, Fall River, and Providence responded to
Correct.
that, and the Coast Guard secured the perimeter and
Sure,
the
yes.
fireboat basically from North Kingstown fought the fire, right?
Correct.
And how long does it take for the North Kingstown boat to arrive to Newport or when it went to Hog Island?
I mean, it would depend on the weather conditions and what they're encountering, but it could take anywhere from 25 to 40 minutes, depending.
Okay. And let's see. Could you just describe what capabilities we have now as far as the rescue boat? Can we carry EMS equipment? Can we? What's the difference between the boat we have now and the boat that we were considering getting without the grant and this boat?
Sure. The current boat we have now is a 22-foot rib, which is a rigid hull inflatable boat. It's quick, it's nimble, it's a good platform for delivering marine rescue. However, it's not a good platform for delivering EMS. So basically, we can get our people there, but as far as retrieving a patient and delivering definitive treatment on board, we can't do that. We do bring medical supplies and such with us, but as far as giving them good care, we can't. If we're are able to purchase the Moose boat or a boat similar to that, we can have a defined patient care section where we can properly secure them. If they're having any traumatic injuries, we can deliver ALS care, cardiac medications, defibrillation, anything we could do in the back of a rescue.
Right. Now, I just have one more question. The Homeland Security grants that we get, does that require our fighter fighters to go long distances and stay there, and then we have to foot the bill for that? Is that something that happens?
No, for that to happen, and they can't force it. It's actually called EMAC. It's part of the Emergency Management Assistance Compact, which is across the whole United States. Anybody that needed assistance, their governor would have to reach out to the governors in the adjoining states requesting the assistance, and they would have to foot the bill to get the assets there, pay for the personnel lodging. They'd have to pay for everything, and they cannot force you to go there.
Okay. And one other. Would this fireboat aid the naval station as well?
It would aid everything in the area, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Camacho?
I defer. Councilor said we already covered my questions.
Okay. Councilor Neville?
I guess I was just going to ask if the city could review very briefly the costs associated with the boat.
Well, which costs are you referring to?
The grant and then
In the mic,
city
please.
obligation. I already know the answer, but just for the public.
Sure. The total project for the boat and the training and sundries is $964,500. Of that, the city would be responsible for 75%. Let me see if I can find
25.
25%.
The city would be responsible for 25%.
Yeah, thank you. I got that backwards. That wasn't good.
And where do you anticipate the funds coming from for the 25%?
So that 75% share from the federal government is $723,375. Our match would be in the $200,000 range. The way it works out, it's actually
$241,000. And to answer your question, that $241,000 comes out of money that you've already programmed for a rescue boat, approximately $267,000. So we used the $241,000 that's in the CIP, which is a product of the vehicle or the equipment replacement schedule, which is funded by the general fund.
Right. So we have already allocated these funds previously.
You have allocated $267,000 in this year's budget for a so-called rescue boat.
Right.
Correct.
Thank you.
So,
Councilor Flores?
thank you. So we have about 12 million registered vessels in the U.S. Every year we've got about 250 boat fires. It's a very nominal amount. My thinking on this several days ago was that doesn't add up. It's not worth it, right? But there has been new information. And one of those pieces of information that I think are very vital and critical to this whole dialogue that we're having is the fact that we have about $400 million in property assets in and around the bay that traditional conventional fire trucks simply cannot get to, right? So when you look at this, we've already budgeted about $267,000 of this for a fire safety vessel. That's already been voted on. The council unanimously voted on this. I'm not sure about you, Councilor Leonard. But that wasn't a jab. It really wasn't.
It's all right. I ask questions.
But this additional grant that we are receiving, it's pretty substantial, and I think we do have an obligation to those very substantial assets that we have in our bay. Fires in general are not that common. The likelihood that your home, your apartment will catch on fire, it's unlikely. But I can't imagine a scenario where we have a fire, where we can't get to it because we decided as a council it was too expensive. Now, with that said, we also have to look, I can't really discuss it a lot right now, but over the next 2 weeks, we're going to find that there's some very creative funding sources that are going to have a net zero impact to the taxpayer. And that's promising to me. So I think we're going to have a very good resolution when it's all said and done to this matter.
Okay. Councilor McLaughlin?
Thank you. I do have some thoughts I want to share. I want to start out by saying we have $400 million worth of property valuation. We can't actually respond to the current fire.
Is your mic on?
No, it's not, and that was for a good reason.
Well, you could leave it off.
That's right. I want to.
You were panicking us for a minute that the system didn't work at all. Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
I was checking your ability to lip read.
Right.
Before I make my comments, I just want to point out, if we have $400 million worth of property valuation that we're not prepared to fight fires on, we got a bigger problem than buying a fireboat. So I don't think that that's a fair assessment. I think there may be some properties that a fireboat might add to the ability to address a fire on, but I hope that in the process of addressing this, we don't start coming up with all kinds of questionable claims about what the value of this fireboat might be. As I addressed with the city manager this morning in a conversation, where am I coming from on this? We did appropriate money to buy a new fireboat. But what I don't see before us is what the capabilities of that fireboat would have been relative to the one we have today, which was down on the pier this morning, and the one that we were looking at, which is considerably more expensive. I think there are some serious policy implications of getting into the business of what this fireboat will get us into. In some ways, I'm really suspicious that Homeland Security is, dangling something in front of us and saying, here, take this, to deal with issues that I didn't know they were a problem yesterday, and I'm not sure they're going to be a problem tomorrow, and they don't have much to do with fire. And I think it's the responsibility of the federal government and then the state government to deal with terrorism and anti-terrorism. I don't think it's responsible government to start getting communities to buy into having capability that I think is over their head. And I'm just going to stay on one point for a second. The Coast Guard doesn't try to put out fires. When I learned that, I thought, what a preposterous thing. The Coast Guard isn't in the business of putting out fires on vessels at sea. But we're going to get into that business. And I had to think for a minute, why don't they get into it? And it's all about they're not trained to do it. And Coast Guard men are on board their cutters all the time. And apparently they can't get trained to put out a fire on a vessel at sea. I really think we're understating what are going to be the training requirements of doing all of the things that the grant application talks about. And I think we need to consider that as we go forward. But as I started out, what were the alternatives? We've jumped from what we currently have, which we'll all agree is inadequate, to something that we were proposing to get, which hopefully was going to address the needs of the community, to something which is vastly greater than I think our needs are. And even though it's free, I don't believe there's any such thing as a free lunch, and the cost will come later in the future and actually how we use it. So I would ask the manager over the next 2 weeks to, address the issues of, what were the alternatives? What are the needs that we're addressing by buying this boat? What are the policy implications of how we're going to deal with all the other municipalities and entities that are going to have claims on this? I mean, as one resident who I respect said, they're giving you the boat, but every time they invite you to a dance, you're going to have to go. And you may be saying that's not true, but I want to understand that more clearly. Are we going to have to go to all of these events because we took Homeland Security money to buy something that we may not have needed? So I hope you understand my skepticism, and I'd like to get more information, but I'd like to, have it organized as to why this is really a good thing for Newport. And because it's free is not a good reason for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I hear everybody referring to this as a fireboat. I went down to look at it today and to see what its capabilities were. And I really thought it's much more than a fireboat, fire rescue. There is not a time during the summer season, and sometimes even in the winter, that firefighters aren't out doing a rescue, whether somebody is sick or ill, they've been hit by something at sea, and they had the entire capability of administering care the way they do in a rescue wagon. That was impressive to me. The other thing was the sonar system. This isn't something that people really want to talk about, but we have had a number of people that have jumped from the bridge. Some survived, some didn't. Families, I can tell you, 20 or 30 years ago, families went on sometimes days, weeks, sometimes months. The current, finally, the body would turn up. With the sonar capability, they're actually able to see in the dark. They have night vision, see through the water. They can identify a body. It's thermal technology. And my other point is we live in a very, very different world today than we did 20 years ago. There are things that we're not even aware of that I think we may be able to address some of those issues if, in fact, we had the technology and the equipment to do so. But I'm going to repeat, I quickly read through the information that was given to us today, and I need time to digest it. And I think the public needs time to digest it. And that's why I'm recommending a continuance. But as more of these answers come to us, I just think that this was a positive step in the right direction at the right time. So if anybody from the public, after Councilor Leonard, anybody from the public would like to address this issue of the fireboat or has a question, I certainly would welcome you to come to the podium. I think we should try to be as transparent as possible with this whole project. Yes, Councilor Leonard.
As I read the action item, and I feel much the same as Councilor McLaughlin, it seems that we are really extending ourselves to what I think is way beyond what Newport capabilities may be. And I'm going to give some quotes that came right from the action item. And it says, the department would also be able to respond to incidents classified as chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and explosive. That's one quote. And another one is, with the responsibility of prevention, response to, and recovery from maritime emergencies, including CBRN events that occur adjacent to and on the waters of approaches to the Port of Providence, including Narragansett Bay, Rhode Island, and Block Island Sound. And then it says, a partial list of the major target hazards in the proposed vessels response area include 4 major bridges, Port of Davisville, North Tiverton Fuel Terminal, Narragansett Bay, Block Island Wind Farm, Naval Station Newport, Saconnet River, Mount Hope Bay, Taunton River, approach to Cape Cod Canal. This is what we put in to get the grant, and I'll go even further. It may also be utilized as a safety vessel during high traffic events as the Volvo race stopover, and then so forth. And then it says that we may also use it for inspecting the bridges. And I'm saying, wait a minute, that's Rhode Island DOT. And then it's over here. I'm looking at all my notes. And yes, the amount of money that we're talking about is to purchase the boat and our matching funds, but this is an ongoing operation, maintenance, expenditures, training. I don't know how well trained and how I would like our men that are part of Newport to be responsible for so many areas that it seems we are committing to when we applied for the grant. It just seems like if you're saying this is for our community, this is what we can do, but we're talking about New York, New Bedford. I mean, maybe I'm seeing it differently, but I just look at it, I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical of saying, how far do we go? What are we, if we're making commitments to get a grant, are we going to be held to these commitments? And my guess is probably yes.
I think what you're going to do in the normal course of matters with these grants, because we do them all the time, not fireboat grants, obviously, but if you were to accept the grant, then at some time we will get something that details the requirements and the obligation that the acceptance of the grant entails. And then you vet those things. We get these things not these type of grants, but we get grants every month. We get a lot of them through the city, and we vet the requirements of the grant. And in some instances, we're not able to adhere to the requirements, and we reject the grants because some of the requirements are onerous. I'm thinking about a couple of things that we've done with civic investment, where some of the requirements were just too difficult to satisfy. So much of this, and I know that you're stumbling on the way the application appeared and what is appearing in the docket, and so much of your curiosity or your interest is in vetting out the details of the obligations if we were to accept the grant. And Kate, I think you're saying the same thing that Justin said in terms of you'd like to know, in part, what those obligations are. Certainly, I had the opportunity to view the North Kingstown boat today. I had the opportunity to actually go out on it with a couple of you. I had the opportunity to view its maneuverability. I had the opportunity to view its water cannon, and I was absolutely impressed with it. I actually thought before we left the dock, the thing that crossed my mind was the North Kingstown boat was too big. But once I got out there, I thought we were somewhat dwarfed by the assets that were in the harbor. The State Fishing Pier, the Inn on Long Wharf, the other boats that are in the harbor, we were one of the smaller ones. So I think your inquiries are apropos, and we will get the information for you, so you will act on this accordingly.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Councilor Neville.
I did want to bring up a point, too, in that we've been sitting here, some of us or many people in this room, for years now trying to build up sort of a sailing tourism economy, and we try to call ourselves, and we do call ourselves the sailing capital of the world, and we've been getting the Volvo Ocean Race, the America's Cup, we've been getting these regattas back. It's a very exciting time, but with that buildup comes the city's responsibility to protect that buildup. And we are growing that economy, and we are growing the harbor, and we are growing these things, and with that then comes a new need. And the boat we have in service now is 16 years old, and I believe we have outgrown it. Our events have outgrown it, and the need is there. Thank you.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair, can I have one thing?
One thing.
Yes. We talk about events, we talk about the Volvo, we talk about all these events, many of which are welcoming as part of the Rhode Island economy. It's not Newport only, it's the Rhode Island economy. And I think, and I did mention it to two of our state representatives and a senator, that I think that Newport needs to reach out a little, because in terms of the bed tax, the meals and beverage tax, and so forth, where we don't get to keep a big percentage and goes to the state. We're talking about big events that are pulled into Fort Adams, which is owned by the state and DEM, and maybe it's time to reach out and say, excuse me, but this is a Rhode Island type of thing, not just Newport, and maybe you should all think about also contributing or funding to some of this, rather than Newport being the ones who don't get all of the benefits of the taxes that are brought in.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes.
Could I just say that this is a federal grant, so we're getting federal money for this. I mean, if we were to accept it.
Correct.
So that's where that's where the help, I believe, comes from. Am I not correct in how we were going to pay for this
Correct.
type of upgrade on a boat is through federal money? So could you also just explain how things have changed since 9/11 and why it is that now municipalities are tasked with firefighting in their harbors and more rescue than before,
Sure.
that the Coast Guard used to do?
Post 9/11, the federal government identified the fact that they didn't have the capabilities on ground or boots on ground to immediately help with the mitigation of problems in communities. That's why they came out with the Homeland Security Act. That's why all of this grant funding was made available. The thought process is help the communities to provide more services so they can at least start the process of mitigating situations and making recovery easier. Much like the normal mutual aid, the process is you go local, adjacent community mutual aid, state mutual aid, reach out regional state mutual aid, and then you go federal. And that's how it's set up, and that's why we get these grants. For instance, when I wrote the 2012 grant for our SCBA air packs, a major component of that was because of the mutual aid we were providing, because of the size of the department we were. That's why we got that funding, because we were a bigger department. We were going to, we provided mutual aid to other communities, not just the island. And that's how that works. The whole idea is that they're creating layers of protection or resiliency or the ability to respond to incidents. And that's been a major outcome.
Right, because these communities come to us when we need aid.
Absolutely, correct. I mean, we had the fire down on Bellevue Avenue. We had 4 or 5 communities that not only came and filled our stations and stood by, but actually showed up to the scene to assist us.
So this boat would be part of the Narragansett Marine Task Force, is that correct?
Yes, Narragansett Bay Marine Task Force, yes. Which, like I said, we're already a member. We already respond. I mean, these responses already take place.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Is there anybody from the public that has any questions? And the other thing I will mention again, that all this information will be on the website, and also the media outlets will have the comments that we received today. Okay, hearing none. I make a motion to continue this till the next meeting.
Second.
There's a motion and second to continue. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to convene the City Council in executive session to discuss issues relating to the disposition of publicly held property.
Second.
There's a motion second to convene as in executive session. This meeting is, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Meeting over.